Good morning to our speaker, Sridhar. We are joined. We start the meeting with national anthem. Please rise for national anthem. Meanwhile, I will play the national anthem video.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Good morning to all of you once again. I hand over the floor to Ganesh. Ganesh, please start the session with the speaker.
Sure. Thank you very much, Umeshji. And thank you, Sridhar, for joining us. I know I kind of sprang it on you, but you immediately accepted. So very kind of you.
Thank you.
And just as an introduction, I want to introduce a topic to people so that they know what to expect. See, 2 or 3 things I think we are all aware of. That one is, of course, India has been successful in various areas, including in software, including in, of course, education. But we have never really focused on a topic called design. And I think Sridhar is, to my mind, one of the best experts on service design that I know because of his experience. So I really thought we should be able to discuss that topic a little. But in doing that, I thought we should take up a theme which all of us are familiar with, obviously Rotary specifically and Rotary Club of Riverside. We do a lot of work in education. And as most of you know, and this is something that is not a secret anymore, the COVID years have been seen as a couple of lost years for education, because people tried to convert their normal classroom experience to online. Children didn't study at all. I myself am the board member of Educate Girls, where we have 14 lakh girls in tribal areas in MP, UP, Rajasthan, and Bihar, who just completely dropped out of school. They couldn't understand. So one thing I think we've all learned, and I've been working in this area for 25 years in terms of online conversion of design or design of education. And that is one area where Nandan Nilekani, who needs no introduction. So Nandan is the father of Aadhaar and Open Network for Digital Commerce, so many things in our country. But he and his wife Rohini actually then started this initiative called Step. And Sridhar has been very active in that. So the way we'll approach this is to understand the new models of education also, which is what Step is all about. And of course, we will, before we close today, we'll try and understand from Sridhar that when you design a product or a service, what are those elements or what are those imperatives to do a good design? So I think these are the 2 broad themes we'll cover. So I requested Sridhar to maybe do his presentation in 3 parts. One is to talk about himself a little bit so that you know who he is. And apart from that, of course, talk a little bit about Step and education, and then give us his concept on design. And of course, we'll have time at the end for question answers. But just as a formal background, Sridhar has been trained as an engineer and a designer with 3 decades of experience across several industries and in several roles, including co-founding a very big award-winning deep tech startup. He's based out of Bangalore, currently advises product companies on design, and he's an active mentor to budding designers and engineers. He'll share his journey, as I mentioned, both with Step and in design. Over to you, Sridhar. All yours.
Thank you, Ganesh. And it's my pleasure to be part of this group. And I'm very excited to share what I can. And design is not so well understood generally, but I will I won't be prescriptive here. I would try to share some examples, and I'll try to rush through my presentation so that we can maximize your questions. And design is something which everybody can have an opinion on. So I'm sure the Q&A, we can have a nice discussion and explore all the topics. So I would like to start. I'll just share my presentation so that I can Yeah. So this line, which is the best design is invisible, is actually I would attribute it to Nandan Nilikani, who I first met in my career at which I started at with Infosys in '95 as a product designer for their and I was the first designer set up their UI design practice. So I've had a lot of interaction with him, and I've seen the company transform, grow through the period. So it's only in this during the period at Xstep that when we were just a second. Yeah. So during my period at Xstep that we discussed many times what is the role of design, and he's a big champion of design. And so he mentioned to me this curious thing that the best design is invisible. And I think a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about are essentially a lot about what happens behind, what happens below the hood, to make and deliver a good user experience, design at a very intangible level. So that's really what I would like to cover. In terms of experience, so I did mechanical engineering in '89 from Osmania, and then I did product design at NID Ahmedabad in '92, and I started my career in at VIP Nasik and designing luggage, and then moved into consumer goods, and I was part of the marketing head office at BPL. 92, 95 at I was doing visual merchandising, point of sale, brand identity at the retail and things like that. At that time, I shifted into Infosys in '95 because of the I had an interest. There was growing thing about IT, and I wanted to explore. So I was the first designer there, and I designed in '97 India's first internet banking application from scratch as part of Pinnacle. And or later with OnMobile, where we did speech interfaces, things like that. So the Infosys journey has been essentially a lot about technology and transformation of business driven by technology. And you all have witnessed to it post the internet era, the mobile era, the social, and today the AI and things like that. So somewhere along the way, I also worked briefly with Oracle, iFlex actually. That was because they also wanted to migrate their core banking from Oracle green screens, the traditional legacy system, to a web interface. So I helped migrate that whole thing. I oversaw that effort in terms of the UI. And then I had the thing to start my own. So I did the Bizosis, which is a big data startup. We built a chatbot in 2012 with NLP. I mean, it was a bit cruder version of a ChatGPT, but it would do pretty good support on for customers. I mean, the use case we solved were like customer experience and things like that. And we built a low-code application platform so people could quickly put together an application much faster and in a less rigid way. So overcoming some of the technical constraints, I would say, and we did some amount of machine learning analytics in IoT space for several customers in the pharma, telecom, and things like Honeywell or a few of these kind of companies. We did some work with Axis Bank. So they were had a lot of services revenues for some personal reasons. Some of my co-founder had a health challenge, something, and so we decided to close shop. And around that time is when I met Nandan, October 2014. And he was also trying to figure out what to do because he had just lost the elections in 2014 under the Modi wave. And he was, I think he has not lost anything much really in life. You know, he's always been very successful. But he was gracious enough to taken time out in that time with me. He suggested what I could do in terms of an exit for my own startup. And in that process, while discussing, he mentioned that he was planning to start Xstep, and that was that design is important for education. And India, we are planning, there are 200 million children. I mean, very big, big thinking and big. It was fantastic kind of opportunity. So I anyway was exiting my own startup. So that's when I moved into Xstep, which is in 2015 when it started. He founded it with Rohini, his wife, and Shankar Maruvada, who was also part of the Aadhaar team. And he's currently the CEO of Xstep. So the Xstep was, I was there, I would say today I would cover mostly some of that, which is very, in those initial years where we were figuring out what is the education space, what do we do there, and before what it is today. So I would, I think the scale part is something I wasn't so much part of it, but I was there during the initial experimentation, exploration at the pivots, those discussions. So it was quite, because none of us really knew anything about education, truly speaking, in the sense formally, we're not educators. So it was a great journey from a technology point of view. So I'll spend more time on that. The last thing, currently, what I do is I mostly consult on product to companies on who make modern architecture products. So these days I'm consulting with the Beacon protocol, which is part of, again, which drives ONDC and things like that, which is sort of decentralized open networks. And how do you engage? So this is where the whole, what Ganesh mentioned of service design and things like that come in a lot. The ideas of what is a service design. So last thing is that I have been regularly teaching at NID in Bangalore campus. And for several years, I'm involved in selection of students, faculty. And I'm also, last 2 years, I'm serving on the NID Senate in guiding us on how do we adapt and to the current changes on the academic side and things like that. So these are what I do right now as a consultant and also teaching. I've done some workshop at IIM Bangalore for executive leaders. I work closely with Ganesh Prabhu and others who are product management and experts with Rishikesh. So I because design has increasingly found some footing because of user experience, because of digital. So yeah, so this is what I've been doing. So today I'll just focus on Xstep. But before that, I thought I should just share a couple of quick projects which I recall fondly from my own work. This is, in fact, this is in 1990 at a student level project, which taught me as a designer humility, I would say, because we as designers sitting in some sort of ivory towers, would impose our, actually designers, we are making a lot of value judgments. We are looking at an audience or users and telling them, this is what it should be, this is what is good for you. So we are pushing things down the throat in a way. So I would say as a designer, it works maybe for fashion or few lifestyle things where aspirational things like that, luxury, maybe because of the taste, you're an arbiter of taste and things like that. But when it comes to mass scale, utility and things like that, this project was the one which I'm very fortunate that I had this experience at very early stage in my career and before I started my career. Because I was designing a toolkit to maintain a hand pump, which is the India Mark III. Now, this hand pump was originally designed in Jalna near Kolhapur, I think, by a Swedish missionary. And it has evolved, and it's an engineering marvel, if you ask me. because you can go to this pump after 2 months and 3-4 strokes, and you get the water. It doesn't lose the lift in it inside. So from the board. So the issue was that once in a while the valve or something, inner valve, you see that black cylinder here at the side. This is the valve assembly which helps lift the water and builds the head, and then it flows out. And this is so there's a sort of a tank here where the water collects, and then it flows smoothly from here. So often this goes down maybe 40-60 feet. So that's like 5-6 pipe lengths down. And sometimes the valve needs repair, or and that like might be once in a year or something, and this pump has been designed to overcome a lot of other challenges. And it's a very interesting project itself, because of the way government has learned its lessons, and in how to the India water mission itself is a fascinating story, but I don't want to go too deep into it now. But yeah, this taught me that how user-centeredness and what do I focus on for the children, the women who are the silent sufferers of the solution if it is not designed fit for them. So just to summarize, the final toolkit, which is on the bottom right, is actually a well-designed, perfect in terms of engineering as a toolkit, but all I did was to make it smoother, rounder, ergonomic, so it doesn't interfere with their dress like saris or loose garments. And it's easier to carry on their head without provoking people from saying, oh, here's a loose model woman in going from one village to the other village to maintain the hand pump. So there is a reason why women were chosen for this, because they were the most motivated and their responsibility was water. So it's all part of the India water mission. So it was part of our systems thinking and systems design project. So to me, this is, I would say it was my blessing that I could take this project up, and I wanted to share this. And if you have any questions, I can always go into it later or talk about it separately. It's a fascinating project. So this is a typical consumer product from I'm just closing my work. This is the first part, what Ganesh was saying. So I did design consumer products as a product designer. And so in 1990, what you see is a pair of headphones with attitude. And it had a lot of things. You could put earrings on it and things like that. You could change the ear cups depending on your dress. So that, it's like a swatch concept. So what you see on the right is how is a design generated by Mid-Journey AI. This is an experiment I did recently, some 6-7 months back, or when the new generative AI was launched. And I said, okay, let me have the AI design with the same prompt. So I created a prompt based on my goal when I did the design of the product in 1990, and then see what it gave. So it gave amazing variety. So I'm just highlighting how our careers, professions are being impacted or changing with this emerging technology, and especially the generative AI. So this is something I have an interest in, and I bring it up in my consulting. So I just wanted to give you a glimpse of these. So this is broadly, there are a lot of other things I've done, but these are just some glimpses of some of the work I do and my interest. So coming to the second part, which is I'll quickly cover, is the exit journey. So I was in there as the head of digital labs. So I did a lot of initial, because we didn't know, like I said, much about education, except for our own journeys as students and or our children studying in school, things like that, as parents, basically, and limited interaction with curriculum. So the education has been more or less sort of for us outsourced to the teachers. So how do we design for digital online education? And this is the goal which Xtep took up, especially at all the low-income, low-cost schools and government schools, and we consciously were avoiding the higher private schools and things like that. So what I did was we said, let us understand. So the first thing I did there was to say, look, when I enter the office at Xstep, I say it is in Kormangla in Bangalore. I say I am not going to design keeping my own children in mind, because they have the confidence, they have the access, they have the privilege. So I'm not designing for them. So who am I designing for? That was the key question which drove my explorations. And I think to a great extent, that was the humility with which everybody at Xstep explored with openness. So what is it about design? So obviously, when we get in, we are thinking about, okay, there are numeracy gaps, literacy gaps, and things like that. So how do we bridge those? So we straight away try to get into curriculum. So it went through a lot of pivots in those days. We did a lot of field research. We understood where are the gaps in terms of learning. There were the assert surveys, which we were referring to. There were a lot of other research. Does gamification work? Doesn't work? Why it doesn't work? So we spoke with a lot of experts. Why is math learning different from language learning? How is it, does it transfer when you do Indian languages? We heard from a lot of linguistic experts onwards. So we had a lot of people coming in there. And now besides that, there was a whole technology exploration. We had Pramod Verma, who's still the CTO, and people like Sangeet Paul Chaudhary of Platform Revolution talking to us about platforms and how things are. So the essence was basically what I'm trying to show is, look, we have textbooks which are the analog version of technology, you can say, which is somebody decides, makes it, and they just distribute. It's a one-way thing, and it's just sent across, and people just take it, and there is no feedback really as coming from there. With what we were trying to straddle was, and we did see things like Khan Academy, what is happening there, how is it working. So there is a phenomenal amount of content which is digitized. So people make nice videos to explain something very engaging, and they push it out, which is the sort of the digitization of content. Or you have CD-ROMs for self-learning. So you can, instead of reading or flipping through a textbook, you are using a computer or a device to access. So if you see what is digital is something we consciously explored, and where it is actually not a one-way thing, it's more interactive, it is far more open, and it allows for more vibrant behaviors. So there is what is a question and answer, what is multiple choice, what is an assessment, how people will engage. So these are some of the things we realized, that it's not about just, okay, we need to get into this mission, just digitize books. The textbooks are all there, the curriculum is there. We will just digitize it and spread it through internet or on phones and things like that. But that would be just some clunky one-way thing. So what we realized, even from, say, things like Khan Academy or even the YouTube videos, is from that engagement, all you know is that somebody sat in front of a video and watched it maybe for 5 minutes or 7 minutes, but you don't know whether they actually absorbed it. What is the takeaway? Did they get, was there any learning outcome out of that? So these are some of the limitations of some of those technologies. And we said, okay, how do we improvise there? And that's where the whole work started around at Xstep, to build the platform, which is what they refer to as a building blocks approach. And again, this is an architectural or a technical technology point of view, where you're trying to make modular parts. So there is a block where somebody can use to create a content as a teacher or a educator, and it goes through a process, a CMS, it goes through a process, it gets published, it gets discovered, somebody can search for it, they find it, or they can, when they search, they can say, I want to learn about how the circulatory system works. for grade 7 in this board, either CBSE or whatever board in this language. And so you are able to discover that specific content and engage with that. So one is that access. The other is that when people do the search or when they interact with it, there is some data, which is what we were building the platform for, that you get, okay, people look for this, the children use this, they explored the question and answer, this is how they performed, this is the kind of feedback they should get, this is where they are, and related, given these, the way they approached or they answered or the assessment, these are additional topics probably they need to learn before they move on and things like that. So, you're able to craft a digital journey for each child as they engage because of these independent blogs. So one of the, I would say we were doing a lot of these. We were building, like I said, gamification. Now, we also found, I think Nandan invested, we got the best of the best, like Electronic Arts from US to help us build some pretty interesting, very fascinating Indian context-oriented games, with something an Indian would relate. So this team, in fact, came from US, studied our environment, went to our bazaars, saw markets, saw the people, saw how, and then went back and conceptualized the game. But what we found is the game is fantastic. It teaches, let's say, math for primary school. Because it was so beautifully gamified, the children learners would engage with it. They would, because it's so much fun, or to explore it. But it becomes very goal-oriented, where they just click, or try, and fail till they get to some kind of an answer. So there's a bit of randomness. So did they internalize what they did? Why did 2 plus 2 become 4? So how did that internalization we found, and also there are technical papers on that it doesn't work so well. So we came back into the conventional way of teaching, the classrooms, the teachers, the pedagogy, things like that. So there were a bunch of things that were happening parallelly in the years that I was there, that 15 to 16, 17. Besides the whole exploration around technology, like the building block idea and things like that. So finally, it settled down, I would say, in 2020 onto a specific thing, which is the modification of the textbooks. So this is the data from 2020, just after COVID had got into the world, and we had a lot of online learning in whatever way. And this is the end of 2020. There were suddenly people engaging with over 180 million students across the country, because by then, because of the digitization, people, I think I missed telling you, but 2018-19, initially the Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, then MHRD, Delhi central government, they all started exploring X-Steps products, and which was open source as Sunbird, the building blocks. And we were building, there were a lot of pilots, they were training, and it was getting rolled out. But I think by the time the COVID came, it was a blessing again for our country that almost at least 28 states had already onboarded the Diksha platform, and with their own content, with their own teachers creating content and things like that. So that's where it was. We had 15.9 billion learning minutes. There were whole 140,000 courses. There were 15,000 contributors. And there were textbooks, which is what I want to talk about, which is the core of what worked out here. What is the secret sauce or the DNA which helped this, which is the energized, what they refer to as energized textbooks. So there were 7 million teachers across who were using from government schools. So below what you see is Sunbird is it was being used by different people to do different things, as a piece of technology. It is you for adapting it to other use cases. One of them, which you're familiar with, is probably is the DIVOC and the effort to create our vaccine certificates. So there's a specific module called registry and credentials, which was used to help. If you remember, I said earlier, the problem with learning is you need to have full feedback. They need to know who's using it, how much, what they did, and did they learn. In all this is anonymized. There's no personally information ever anywhere, but the usage. So because of these things and the credentials are all established, you're the teacher who can create you. So there is some kind of answerability and governance in the system. So these modules were all independent. The registry credentials. And this exactly was taken very quickly and put out by MHA and all for the COVID vaccine certificates. So as soon as these certificates, the vaccine was being rolled out in India, we had digital certificates coming around very fast, because there was this highly scalable technology which was adapted very quickly for certificates. All we needed was instead of giving you a certificate that you passed, cleared a course in say 10th or 8th or some say all about life processes, about circulatory system. I could give a certificate, or a teacher gets a certificate saying you're trained, you are fit to teach this topic, this subject, you earn these credentials. So when you had all these mechanisms, it was just repurposing it for the COVID vaccine certificate at scale. So these are some of the things which emerged out of Sunbird. And I was not part of this journey, but because I had moved out in 2018. But these are some of the amazing things that came out of the platform. And so this is the core of the innovation, I would say, at XTEP, which has led to a scale. What they mean by energized textbook. Now, this is a huge effort. So basically, if you see the left side, the textbook, this is a typical NCERT textbook, chapter-wise, and each chapter would have some maybe 2 to 3 QR codes. Now, which is what you see here. So it was a great lot of work and effort that went in, where the teachers would also add the education department, the administration, who control and distribute millions of textbooks every year, decided to change and said, okay, we are going to place these QR codes. And it went into that process. So that was an amazing integration which happened. So once you have a textbook with a QR code, the QR code is like an inventory, it's like a check or something like that. Every book, every QR code is unique, and it maps to a URL or an address somewhere. So if you see, the advantage here was that each textbook had a fixed QR code, which is distributed at the beginning of the year to every student. So when they are in the early part of the classroom, that is, they're in their first term, they're learning about circulatories, let's say the heart. When the teacher or anybody, the parent, scans this QR code, it takes them to a URL which tells them more, maybe an animated view of or a video around the heart, how it works. Now, you could also, in some places, map that QR code. I mean, each state could, because education is a concurrent subject, each one could remap the QR code for their own resources. So, for example, like what you see on the right is, this is, again, not at scale. This I'm just showing you for the possibility. This is something we built in XTEP. It's a augmented reality view. So if the student takes if you see this heart picture below, which is from the textbook, this heart, if you take, you scan that code, it asks you to point your camera at the heart, and immediately a 3D heart comes up with this thing to show you a static animated view of how the heart works. It just pops up in front of you. So this is actually a screenshot from the phone. So these are all possibilities suddenly that once you scan, it opens a world of digital content. So I think that was the primary innovation around what they refer to as energized textbook. And so if you see toward the end of the term, maybe when it is assessment, the same QR code now can be remapped to an assessment. So you could have something like a chart or to test the knowledge of the child, these are all this is the freedom you got and all this. And more than anything, so these millions of QR codes across all these pages, on these books, which are being scanned. So when we saw the data earlier, it is because there are people who are engaging through these QR codes on the textbooks. So this is the data from there, so, and which is recorded and each state government has its own portals and where they observe all this. Sorry. Yeah. So this is a quick dashboard of from
Sridhar, if I can just interrupt you for a minute. So essentially what you're saying is the pedagogy moves from being purely linear teaching to letting children explore all over the place and, develop their own learning model, right?
No, I won't say it's so self-empowered, but it is that there is the element that because the QR code is a gateway into a world of digital content, which is managed by a trusted system like the school.
Okay.
So it's within that, and so that this happens. So in that sense, the children there is some governance, it's not like they're going and suddenly getting exposed to all kind of unnecessary material, distracted, like the blue whale kind of stuff, all this nonsense. So it's a highly controlled process. And the point is there's a flexibility in this model and it has the basic data. It's almost like it's a small innovation, but with huge possibilities. You think of it like if you think, there are millions of, tens of thousands or millions of products which are made out of China, which go all over the world, from washing machines, fridges, and cars to mobile phones and everything, headphones, you name it, right? So these go in a standardized container on a ship, right? So the container is very standard. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's designed to fit in. So so you think of this container, the specification of a container or the specification of a package or that carton is what is standardized. So in a way, by standardizing this ability to go from a physical world to a digital world through the QR code and managing that with a great relevant teacher-driven, teacher-led content. All the content is from like I said, Xstep initially got into that whole thing of creating content, games and all. We think, let's make math more fun. And, it's it's counterintuitive. It doesn't work. So we got out of that and we helped create this thing. So what Xstep, they refer to as digital public infrastructure. This infrastructure is what enables, and I mean, it's a similar infrastructure when you take the UPI, which is built on Aadhaar and KYC and led to payment systems and things like that, right? So the QR code is at that level. So, and the content is...
Sridhar, one time check, you have 10 more minutes.
Yeah, 10 more minutes. Okay. So these dashboards are from that data which is coming, and it tells you so much more. Of what is happening. They are using the same thing to track whether the textbooks are being distributed. So the same QR code becomes also not just from a learner's point of view, from a teacher, administrator, they scan it. The teacher can scan entire text, an assessment sheet on paper, does OCR or OMR, and that comes back through something called Saral, which comes back into the repository of how children are doing, what are their learning levels, and things like that, which are very, very important. I think these are the big innovations. These are the adjacent use cases which also got addressed because of the digital. So But yeah, so as a designer, we did a lot of surveys. Let's say this is a photo from very interior Bihar where they don't even have power most of the time. This is 2016, and they had to work with LED lights and things like that, And how do you study in such an environment where you don't even have a phone which you can charge, so and or a bandwidth. So we went through understanding a lot of these, and that one device or for multiple people, boys versus girls. Girls don't get access in the evenings because they have to do chores, while the boy allowed to do it. So there were all these kind of inequities out there we were aware of, and we are saying, look, that's not a problem we can directly solve, but so we try to understand how best will group learning work. So the whole content design. So if I shift from the core infrastructure to what is happening, how does learn. So this is a photo from one of the workshops during the initial pilots. These people are all looking at one screen. They're fascinated. So they are. So we looked at, as a designer, I looked at what is the posture in which they look at. How do they hold the device? What is the comfort with respect to the content, or how long should it be? What about its directionality? Should it be portrait? Should it be landscape? How is it? So, there are a lot of intricate questions you get into how the children or the teachers, they can engage with the content. How can they share, discuss, things like that. So we studied, understood a lot of these, and these go into, so just moving a little more into a design away from the X step. So I looked at something like this as a day in the life, and where are the opportunities where I can give them some input, So what are the things? So there is unstructured to structured, So how does the child engage? So these are some of the things we explored to understand. So even from my own point of view, I was saying, what am I designing? I'm not designing a digital textbook. I'm not designing a website. I'm not designing another piece of content, or how do you teach art. I am actually designing at a system level participation. How do I design for increasing participation? What is the user experience of participation? What is the emotion? What action can they take to reinforce that? So if there is feeling, can I allow them to celebrate their achievement to indicate participation? When they're learning, they want to learn, or they're curious, can I put in certain cues or give them time-based reminders, things like that? When they have to share, can I unlock points? So we looked at what are the opportunities, how do you do map for that? And finally, even from a design point of view, I just want to share, because these are all first-time users of devices. So I said, look, we need a simple mental model. So doesn't matter who does what in which region of India, the structure should be that it should be very simple navigation. There is a high-level menu which is more sophisticated. Essentially, it'll be just two gestures to deal with. One is secondary, one is primary. Indicate the primary with more visual weight, and use that. Like, for example, it's right next to it, there's this thing of a teacher at the end of a session saying bye-bye, and you can click to exit. But secondary to that is set a reminder so that, when you want to come back to do the next lesson. So, how do you design for these? So this is some of the visual styles. We went on understanding what kind of a role model, what should the iconography be, and things like that. So we also found that there is a lot of shared device. If you see more higher end, people go into, you have one-on-one, one device per person, or even multiple devices, which is the highest segment. Many of us in our society can have 2-3 phones and one person. But what we are dealing with, people who have just one device, maybe are offline most of the time, and it's a shared resource in a way. So how do you design content and for such things? So these are some of the complexities we explored. I think I will need a lot more time to talk about all that, but just to give a sense of how we got deep below the skin on that. But this is something I do want to highlight, that there was a huge change once after 2016 survey. When we did one next survey in 2017, the situation on the ground had changed tremendously. There was suddenly an explosion. There were a lot more devices. The network is available, and Geo actually really changed the scenario there. The Reliance. So the number of phones, even I'm talking of in the same place in Bihar, so those same villages, so we found that there was so much more access, which was good, and at the same time, even the teachers. So that is where the whole thing really started taking off. I think it's a very significant thing. As a researcher from design point of view, what I did was I said, okay, can I redesign a multiple choice question? I mean, it's designed for something like measurement in, say, the entrance exam to IIM and things like that, which are easy to record, easy at scale, easy to assess, give, and those kind of things. But from a child point, so I actually went into our Gandharva history to look at how our storytelling of Indian storytelling works, and looked at some of those things and see how we can adapt it in a digital world. So it's the same storytelling. It's just that I suddenly am saying, okay, on a touch screen phone, it needn't be linear, like a scrolling down. It can be gestures based. It can be so. I can have the same question in different way to test comprehension in literacy. So these are some of the things which we could experiment with and try out. And also we try to bring in, because of modularity, a lot of these for scale, because the teachers can't see every student and in a group situation. So how can we have machine generated UI elements to like those things I said, celebrate, or depending on who it is, so there are quite a few things within the guardrails of good design. We try to do that. So these are all some of the explorations we did. Okay, this is a more complex thing because of time. I don't want to, but very quickly, what I want to say is these events that we are capturing at the back end, the telemetry, how can we trigger it? Some events can be triggered across sessions. Some are triggered within the session. So you deliberate that so that the engagement is not overwhelming. It is yet rewarding. It encourages participation, things like that. So the usability of the platform as it digitizes lends itself to each learner's progress or each learner's space, So yeah, this is what Diksha is. It has all these things. It has a huge range of including language translation and things like that. So there are quite a few things it has covered. It's a large ecosystem. This is where Xstep has delivered through Sunbird. So I think
this is your last minute, Sridhar.
Yeah,
we have to get
last
a couple
minute.
of questions.
Yeah, so I just want to tell you that, look, what we're doing all along is actually designing a service. No, the design of services are very intangible. They are not, then you can't store or it gets created at the time of consumption at a touch point. So how we look at, so the important thing is when we are doing our, whatever you are engaging with or whatever you're doing in your lives is, when we design products, it's very physical, tangible. But when you design a service, we can't extend the same mindset to that, And there are various ways. So like we do empathy maps. What are the users, to understand the users and bring that to understanding of, and we create what I refer to as service blueprints, where we understand not just what happens as a task, how does a person buy something or learn something, but what happens as they do that, what are their state of mind, things that we understand all those nuances. This is something I did. It's unrelated to education. This is from farmers. I designed for North India. They wanted to improve the engagement of their farmers for a platform. There were some 8 million farmers there, and so this map tells me what are the times. Now this guy has got a physical work. He has to wake up at 4, milk the cow. He has to do so many things. They can't hold a phone and do things like all the IT or some of our more our office workers, right? So These are people who are blue collar, hands on. So, what is the opportunity? Where do you do? How do you nudge? So some of these techniques of service design are something, and research are what we use to understand that better, to improve engagement. And because of technology, you have opportunity to engage at different stages in that whole process, where as they will go from I need a pizza to getting a pizza. So yeah, this is a very different example. I just wanted to tell you about how technology is changing, and how design needs to catch up on that. While all these catalogs look same, they are sorry, Amit, yes.
Thank you, Sridhar. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to our club, and a fellow Infoscian talking to another one. So I served Infosys for 10 years as the head of learning for BPM business. So it's so nice to have you here with us. I want to hear the Diksha platform. How is it available to people like us? I'm currently running a training firm. I do leadership coaching, training. I write papers. I write books as well. So how can Diksha help people like me?
Yeah. So see, Diksha is the platform of Sunbird building blocks have been taken and adapted for the government specific use case. So that is what Diksha is. So while it is open source, you could start by working with the Sunbird building blocks, which is there on the GitHub. There's a website, sunbird.org. You could just go there and get the code blocks. And then there are some reference apps. Using that, you can figure out, and you need to invest and build. In the case of Diksha, there were certain other partners, technology partners, who were involved in building it. So I mean, the code is all there, so you can. And it's
no, I'm not a. Sorry. I'm not a technology. I don't want to build software or anything. I'm more. I want to. My question is more from a user case. You cited example of YouTube. You cited example of code, Khan Academy, and other things. Is there something that you folks are doing which can support small and medium enterprises like ours, and whether it's a paid service or whatever it is, is there anything that is there for us? That's the question. Don't want to build.
I think right now it's only these building blocks as code, and I think some amount of investment has to happen through a partner to repurpose it for your audience and specific situation. If you think you're serving a similar use case like the Diksha or the government education, or based on NCERT curriculum, those kind of lessons, how do I do addition or subtraction with carryover, things like that, so those concepts, then that is already there ready. Suppose you want to do, I don't know what your specific
leadership space. I'm into leadership space. Yeah. So, I'm teaching leadership to.
So Step has the same Sunbird has been adapted for iGot, which is something you can check out, essentially for IAS officers training by the Labasna in Missouri, or those institutes. So it's the same platform, different content, different structure, but it has to be built like that for leaders. So you could take that as a I mean, look at it.
Could you say that again? Could you say that again? The name of the
iGot. You can go and look up iGot. That is IGOT, which is from the central government for training. I think from the HRD of government. So it is for training of IAS officers who are in service.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, so they are doing these using the same platform of Sunbird blocks to
it's
build.
It's an LBSNA in Missouri, Amit.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Amit, for the sake of time, you can connect to either.
I'll do that. I got it. Thank you. Thank you, Sridhar.
You can write to me, and I can connect you to the right person in Xtep or in the ecosystem who has been involved in this effort. There's a company which is involved in building it, like a company called Talent.
Thanks, Sridhar. Over to you.
Thank you.
I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, we are running out of the time, so we'll straightway request Kunj, our member, new member, to propose a vote of thanks.
Uh, Thanks, Mr. Sridhar. When we did the engineering, we had the machine design or the design software. And what we learned during in 80s is that how to design a product or design a machine. So those things were much different than the software then came, and then the website and how to design a website, that how to you get the more eyeballs and how a person can spend more seconds on your website or your last presentation about the how this online selling can do that. Right. So user experience had UX design has changed quite a lot in last whatever 40, 50 years. And today what I saw was the change of the in the service. Now there's a very great I forget a totally new thing. How you design such a way that the rural area students, they learn fast, and not only learn, the best part what you said, how do you get the feedback from the student whether they are learning or they are not learning. And the statement, the initial statement used was the best design is invisible. Design such a way that people think this is the way it should be. It can't be anything else. So, Mr. Sridhar, we thank you a lot for your captivating and enlightening presentation. And I personally learned a lot in your presentation. Looking forward to read and what you talk about. Maybe I will go and search more on that. Thanks for a very great session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sridhar.
Yeah. So Ganesh, thank you very much. And in my classrooms, I go start in the morning at 9:30 and I go until 4. So, I'm sorry, I just
No,
get
no,
into the
what we'll
business.
do, Sridhar, is we'll get you over to Pune and do a one-day session. There are a lot of people who would
Absolutely.
like to literally, dive deep
Yeah.
into this topic.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
If
you.
you
that's a
all
good
have
idea.
any specific problems you want to engage with, let me know, and I'd be happy to come and do a workshop on these things. Thank you so much, sir. And
So usually we conclude our meeting with a joke and one-liner and some four-liners, etc. But for the sake of time, today we'll conclude here
okay.
only.
Okay. And
Thank you very
sir,
much for
wish
coming
you
to us.
a happy birthday, since it's coming up on 15th or 17th. I think the announcement was.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for recalling that.
all right, sir.
Thank you,
So,
everybody. Bye-bye.
thank you, sir. Shall I
We conclude
exit,
the meeting.
Ganesh?
Yeah, I think we're done.
Adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.